The movie kicks off with a chilling scene. A young woman named Camila is tied up in a dimly lit room, screaming for help. Her captor, clearly annoyed by the noise, storms in and zaps her with some kind of makeshift electroshock device to shut her up. Cut to two best friends, Stephanie and Ellie, casually biking through the Argentine countryside, completely unaware of a missing person poster featuring Camila's name. They eventually stop in a small town and notice a local man tending to a shrine covered in pictures of missing people.
Go on, ask her.
With her SOSO Spanish, Stephanie asks for directions to a place called Rosa Mara, where they've booked a motel for the night.
PM. I'm sorry.
Their plan? Catch a bus in the morning and fly back to the U.S. At check-in, a rather sketchy hotel worker assists them.
Please let me know.
Later, while Stephanie waits for Ellie to finish up in the bathroom, she hears a knock at the door. Once they're settled, the two friends hit up a local bar.
Potential?
Ellie teases Stephanie for still texting her ex, but their conversation is cut short when a waitress drops off drinks from a mystery man inside the bar.
Even then, it's so not worth it.
Not particularly interested, they ignore the gesture. A little while later, a blonde guy enters, and Stephanie can't help but glance his way.
Siento hombre.
Being the ultimate wingwoman, Ellie heads over to the jukebox, cranks up some tunes, and starts dancing. The blonde guy, however, seems to get into a scuffle with the bartender before storming off to the bathroom.
Performance anxiety?
Ellie, ever the adventurous type, follows him and flirts, but he shuts her down fast. Not one to let a rejection ruin her night, she turns her attention to the guy who sent them drinks, engaging in some heavy flirting while Stephanie, more of a homebody, ends up heading back alone. By the time Ellie returns to their motel room, she's brought the guy with her. Stephanie sighs, knowing she's in for a long night. Things take a dark turn when Ellie's new acquaintance insists she come home with him, and when she refuses, he gets aggressive. Stephanie jumps in to help, and in a fit of anger, the man starts pounding on their door.
No! Get away from me! Come in!
Just in time, the blonde guy from the bar, who happens to be staying at the same motel, steps in. Soon after, motel staff intervenes, putting an end to the chaos. The next morning, the girls wake up late and miss their bus, the only one of the day. With no other choice, they extend their stay and book another flight.
It was going so great until now.
Stephanie asks the receptionist about local attractions, but Ellie, nursing a hangover, isn't up for any adventure. The receptionist seems uneasy when a serious-looking man enters and quickly whispers something to him before they lower their voices. Ignoring the weird vibe, the two friends decide to go cycling to a place called Vadalego, despite being advised not to go there. They end up at a waterfall, soaking up the sun. Stephanie suggests they leave, but Ellie isn't ready yet.
Good. Where would we start, huh?
She accuses Stephanie of being too uptight and no fun. Offended, Stephanie fires back, calling out Ellie for her reckless behavior at the bar last night. Ellie apologizes, insisting nothing happened, but the tension builds until it turns into a full-blown argument.
If it's any consolation...
Ellie accuses Stephanie of still obsessing over her cheating ex, while Stephanie snaps that Ellie isn't one to give relationship advice since she's never been in one herself. Fed up, Stephanie storms off, leaving Ellie alone by the waterfall.
Steph, wait!
As she pedals away, Stephanie considers turning back but ultimately decides to continue to their next planned stop. Meanwhile, Ellie, unaware she's being watched, texts Stephanie to make amends and suggests meeting for lunch. As she gets up to leave, an ominous figure approaches her. Stephanie arrives at the restaurant where they were supposed to meet, but Ellie is nowhere to be seen. She calls her, but goes straight to voicemail.
Call me. Bye.
Confused, she starts to leave when she bumps into the blonde guy from the bar. He introduces himself as Michael and offers her a ride, but she declines.
With that guy, he's a real creep.
Growing more worried, she heads back to the waterfall and is unsettled to see Michael has followed her. They search for Ellie, but all they find is her abandoned phone and missing bike. Then, Michael notices blood on the ground. Alarmed, Stephanie calls the police. A cop named Calvo shows up and immediately seems to recognize Michael.
Police.
At the station, Calvo looks at photos of Ellie and doesn't seem surprised about another missing tourist. Apparently, this isn't uncommon in the area. After learning the two friends had an argument earlier, Calvo casually brushes it off, convinced Ellie will show up soon.
Su amiga esta perdida.
Still worried, Stephanie insists on filing a missing person report. Calvo reluctantly agrees, but says he doesn't have enough resources to launch a search.
I mean, we can still make a search party before.
If Ellie doesn't return by the next day, he offers to escalate the case to the Central Police. Frustrated, but with no other choice, Stephanie leaves and begins asking around town if anyone has seen Ellie.
I can't find her. Senora?
To her dismay, no one is willing to help. Just when she's about to give up, she spots Chucho, the guy Ellie hooked up with the night before. But when he sees her, he bolts. Stephanie chases after him, only to lose him at a bridge. Defeated, she heads back to her motel, only to find her bike's tires sabotaged. With nowhere else to turn, she sneaks into Michael's motel room after noticing the door slightly open. Rummaging through his stuff, she stumbles upon Ellie's bracelet. Panic sets in. Without wasting a second, she rushes to report her discovery to the police.
Michaels!
Only for Calvo to dismiss her concerns once again. The officer assures Stephanie that he'll question Michael later, but it's clear he isn't taking her seriously. From a distance, the hotel owner notices the situation and asks Stephanie what's wrong.
Ellie's gone.
She offers some comfort and invites her inside, while the suspicious motel staff lingers nearby. Just then, Stephanie spots Chucho riding off on his motorcycle, and without wasting time, she decides to follow him. She hotwires a truck and takes off after him. But after a long chase, she loses track of him when he enters a secluded, rundown area at the outskirts of Argentina. Determined, she drives through the crumbling remains of what looks like an abandoned town. But as she begins searching, she senses someone trailing her. It turns out to be Michael, who assures her that he means no harm. He explains that the bracelet in his room isn't Ellie's. It actually belonged to his girlfriend, Camila, who disappeared 6 months ago. Despite multiple reports of missing women, the police have done nothing, so Michael has been searching on his own. With this new revelation, they decide to split up and look for more clues. Meanwhile, in a hidden part of town, Ellie regains consciousness in a damp, suffocating room, coughing as she wakes up. Not long after, the officer arrives where Stephanie left the stolen truck and spots Michael nearby. Clearly irritated, he starts questioning him about Stephanie's whereabouts, claiming she's now a wanted car thief. Michael calls him out, arguing that the officer seems more worried about a stolen vehicle than a missing person. Ignoring Michael's protests, the officer forces him into the car for questioning. Elsewhere, Chucho and Ellie are locked up together. With no other option, Ellie attempts to seduce him. He takes the bait, but when she resists, he turns aggressive and tries to assault her. Luckily, he gets interrupted by a phone call from his boss, forcing him to step away. Around the same time, Stephanie stumbles upon Chucho's motorcycle and follows the trail deeper into the abandoned town. She eventually finds the building where Ellie is being held and comes up with a plan. She cuts the power to lure Chucho outside. When he steps out to check the generator, Stephanie accidentally knocks over a bicycle, cursing under her breath. She quickly hides as Chucho investigates the noise, then sneaks inside to free Ellie. Using a knife, she cuts Ellie's restraints just as Chucho realizes what's happening and gives chase. The two sprint outside and lock themselves in Stephanie's stolen truck. Panic sets in as they struggle to start the engine while Chucho pounds on the windows. Then, suddenly, everything goes eerily quiet. Moments later, Chucho returns with a brick. He hurls it at the windshield, shattering the glass. With the car now useless, the girls bolt. As they run, Chucho manages to tackle Ellie, slamming her head against the ground, knocking her out cold. Just as Stephanie screams in horror, Michael and the officer arrive, stopping Chucho before he can go any further. Stephanie, believing Ellie is dead, breaks down in tears. The officer orders her to stay put in the car, but as she waits, a bad feeling creeps in. Meanwhile, the officer makes a disturbing comment about how it's a shame Ellie died because she was so beautiful. Michael immediately becomes suspicious. Without hesitation, he grabs the officer's gun, aims it at him and Chucho, and demands to know where Camila is. The officer smirks admitting that he knows where Camila is and that she's still alive, but if Michael kills him, he'll never find her. He then proposes a deal. He'll return Camila if Michael lets him take Stephanie instead. Michael hesitates, but before he can make a move, the officer pulls out a backup gun and shoots him. Stephanie is taken hostage and driven to the officer's hideout, where he reveals the horrifying truth. He's a human trafficker, and he plans to sell Stephanie for $2,000 or $6,000 if she's still a virgin. As he takes a call, he smugly tells her she'll be meeting her new buyer soon. Before leaving, they drug her and carry her onto a boat under the cover of night. As the boat sails away, Stephanie regains consciousness. Thinking fast, she grabs a fishing net and flings it at Chucho, causing him to stumble and fall overboard. He struggles but ultimately drowns. She then slips underwater herself, using the moment to wriggle free from her restraints. As the officer searches the water with his flashlight, she silently swims toward the shore. When she reaches land, she finds herself face to face with an older man, the officer's business partner. The two men discuss her fate, with the older man initially hesitant to buy her, worried that people are looking for her. But eventually, he agrees. Stephanie refuses to accept her grim fate. She kicks the man hard between the legs and makes a run for it. The officer chases after her, but holds his fire, knowing he needs her alive. She stumbles onto a fishing dock, spotting a man she hopes will help her. But before she can say anything, the officer shoots him dead. Realizing she's out of options, she hides. When the coast is clear, she tries to make a break for it, only for the officer to catch her off guard. They struggle, and in a desperate move, she wrestles his gun away. Without thinking twice, she pulls the trigger, killing him. As the sun rises, Stephanie, battered and exhausted, wanders the empty road. A car approaches, and she grips a rock, ready to defend herself. But as the vehicle stops, she sees that it belongs to a female police officer. Overcome with relief, Stephanie allows herself to be helped, finally safe at last. And that's where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps. See you next time.